Hello everyone, this is Nupur Sharma and today we will be studying civics chapter of class 7, that is Women Change the World. This is a very interesting chapter based on how people treat women and what is the thinking about women, the work which are connected to women. So we will read about all those things. Now if you can see here, I have written some words: farmer, teacher, nurse and pilot. So if we see the first word, farmer, if I tell anyone, think of a farmer. Imagine there is a farmer working on the field. What will come in your imagination? A man who is working on the field, but no one will think of a woman working as a farmer. Then let's take another example, teacher. If I say, imagine a teacher is teaching. So the first thought which will come in our mind will be a female teacher who is teaching in a classroom. Nurse, again, if I say imagine a nurse working in the hospital, so people will think about a female who is working as a nurse. Pilot, if I say think about a pilot, then image of a man will come as a pilot. So why there is difference in all these fields? It is us who are differentiating. Why a woman can't be a farmer? Women also work in the field. Why a man can be a teacher? Why nurse? If I say think of a nurse, why this image came into your mind that only a woman can be a nurse? Why not a man? We gave them another name. We tell them that they are compounders. We don't call them nurse. But if we see they are both doing the same thing. Then why pilot? Pilot is why considered as only a man can be a pilot. Why can't a woman be a pilot? So you see here we ourselves are creating an image of man and women working in different fields, right? Now, what is the theme of our chapter? The theme of our chapter, Women Change the World, is limited opportunities. Who does what work? Right now we discussed who does what work. Like if I am telling you all these names, so you are creating an image yourself. That this image is of man, this is of women, right? So the theme is limited opportunities. For whom? For the women. If we see from the history, we are studying all in the history also that every time women are the one who are not getting opportunities. Women not considered to take any suggestion, right? Only the man is in power. Kings, if somebody is, in the history also you have read, like if there is a queen who want to rule, so people don't want a queen to be ruling them. They always need a king to be ruling them. So from the history it is going on that women are not given much importance. Now, what other topics are we going to discuss in this chapter are fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. Means people have very few opportunities, like women have very few opportunities. They don't have the same opportunities, same level of opportunities as the man. And then rigid expectation, this is for a boy or a girl studying in a school. That rigid expectation means we have fixed our expectation that if a child is a boy, that boy will become an engineer only or a doctor only. If it is a girl child, so maybe we will search something like we will tell our girl to do some creative kind of a work for her future. So this is the rigid expectation which parents make about their children. Okay, they have some rigid expectation and then they impose their dreams on their children. Then the second thing we will discuss is story of Lakshmi Lakra. Then learning for change and story of Rokeya Sakhawat Hussain. We'll also read about schooling and education today and women's movement. So these are the topics which we will be covering in our chapter. So starting with our chapter, as you have already read in your previous chapter, we saw in the previous chapter, growing up as boys and girls, that what is the thinking that people make of boys and girls. Just now also we discussed, this is us, this is we people, that we are making an image of our own that yes, if he is a boy, he will do this kind of work. If she is a girl, she will do that kind of work. So we are the one who are creating these images. But it is not that the work which boys are doing, girls can't do. Right? Like from the childhood, if we see the life of a boy and a girl, from the childhood, the girls are told to be sensitive, to speak politely to everyone. But if talking about boys, boys are always made strong. If a boy is crying, the boy is told not to cry. Right? Boy child is told, why you are crying? Are you a girl? Boys don't cry. So this, from the childhood only, people and society, they are teaching these differences to boys and girls. Why? Why can't a boy cry? He doesn't have feelings, he doesn't have emotion. Of course, the boy also have the same feeling and emotion which a girl has. So why always boys are told not to cry? Or if a boy is crying in childhood, then it's told, are you a girl? Why you are crying? So the society is creating this image from the childhood in each boy and girl. So about this we have already studied about all this in the previous chapter. We have also read how doing household work and taking care of family members is full-time job and there is no value. If we consider a woman is doing all the household work, woman is taking care of her family, women are also doing outdoor jobs. But only a person who is doing job outdoor, that job is considered as job, but the work which women are doing at home, taking care of all the members of the family, whether it is a child or an elder person in the family, or taking care of all the household work, but that work is not considered as work. That work is not given any importance. It is said, this is the responsibility of a woman. What if they are even doing this work? So that work is not given importance as compared to the work which people are doing outdoors. Right? Now, in this chapter we will look at work outside the home and understand how some occupations are seen to be more suitable for men and others for the women. Getting an education was and still is one way in which new opportunities were created for women. If we see the history, from the history only we have been reading that women are not given much opportunities. And even if we consider about the education, so even till date it is difficult in some places for the women to get education. Although it is their right, but it is difficult for the women to get education. This chapter will also briefly trace the different type of efforts made by the women's movement. As I told you that we will be reading about this women's movement, so we will understand what this movement is, what women have done for themselves, okay, so that they get their rights. So starting from the first topic, fewer opportunities and rigid expectations. As I just discussed, that women have fewer opportunities, they don't have much opportunities, and as I told you that about the rigid expectations of the parents from their girl child or a boy child. A lot of the children in a class, if suppose there are children, you all are sitting in my class and I gave you this thing to think of, so you will automatically think that yes, farmer will be a man, nurse will be a woman. So it is you who are giving this thought to these occupations. Okay, so why women are considered, or women are only having a few opportunities in every field? Why they are not considered capable of participating in other fields? Or why they are not getting opportunities in the other fields? Although women also can do well, they can do better in other fields as well. Because so many people believe in these stereotypes, many girls do not get the same support that boys do to study and train to become doctors and engineers. Stereotype word we have already discussed in our previous chapters also. So in this chapter we will be discussing about breaking this stereotype. As I told you, we will be reading about a story of Lakshmi Lakra. So here we will see how Lakshmi Lakra has broken the stereotype. What stereotype is, we have discussed already in our previous chapters. Stereotypes means when we create an image of a person without even knowing the person. Suppose somebody comes to my place, I don't know that person personally, or suppose I see a girl or boy, I don't know that person personally, but I am creating my own image that this person might be of angry nature, or this person might have attitude. So this is what I am creating, and a different image of that particular person. That is what we call as stereotypes, creating an image of our own of any person whom we don't even know properly. Right. So here in this story of Lakshmi Lakra, we will read how she will break the stereotype of the people. As we just discussed, that people have limited their expectations from women, that women can't do all kind of work. They are not given so much of opportunities as compared to the man. So in this story of Lakshmi Lakra, who was Lakshmi Lakra? Engine drivers are man. If we say, think of an engine driver, so what image will come to your mind? Engine driver, okay, a man. But here we will study, Lakshmi Lakra was 27-year-old and she belonged to a poor tribal family. Tribals are the people who move from one place to another. So Lakshmi Lakra belonged to a tribal family. She was 27 years. She began to change things. She is the first woman engine driver for Northern Railways. Now see, being a woman, she became engine driver. We'll read about the journey how she became an engine driver. See, Lakshmi's parents were not so literate. They were not literate, but they wanted their child to study. And whatever she wanted to become, they supported her always. So, her parents struggled and overcame many hardships to make sure their child got an education. Lakshmi studied in a government school. Even in school, Lakshmi helped with the housework. Though she was studying in school, she helped her mother in the household work as well. She studied hard and did well and then went on to get a diploma in electronics. So she was knowing that her parents are not literate, but parents were supporting her. So she had worked hard and got a diploma in electronics. She then took the railway board exam and passed in her first attempt. She gave railway board exam and was passed in her first attempt. Lakshmi says, now what was the words of Lakshmi? Lakshmi says, I love challenges and the moment somebody says it is not for girls, I make sure I go ahead and do it. Like if somebody told Lakshmi that this work is not meant for girls, so she wanted to do that work and prove herself that even women can do such work. Now, Lakshmi has had to do this several times in her life. When she wanted to take electronics, when she rode motorcycle at the Polytechnic, and when she decided to become an engine driver. So many moments came into her life when she had to prove herself, showing that girls can also do this work, women can also do this work. So many situations came into her life. The situation when she was doing electronics, people said, no, electronics, this is for man. So she wanted to prove herself, she did electronics. Then when she wanted to ride motorcycle, if we think of motorcycle, so very few girls or very few women are there who ride motorcycle. Otherwise, for women we think scooties are best for the girls or women. So Lakshmi here again she proved that she wanted to ride a motorcycle, so she rode the motorcycle. Then in the Polytechnic, at the Polytechnic also again she proved herself that women could also do this work. And when she decided to become an engine driver, again she proved herself that women can also become an engine driver. Her philosophy is very simple. As long as I am having fun without harming anyone, as long as I am doing well and helping my parents, why should I not lead a lifestyle of my choice? So this was Lakshmi's thinking, that I am not harming any person, right, and I am helping my parents by doing whatever job I am doing. My parents are happy with it. I am not harming any person. So why shouldn't I live a lifestyle of my own choice? Why should I do such work which is imposed by others? Or if somebody is saying that no, women should not do this work, so why shouldn't I do? I am enjoying my lifestyle like this. My parents are happy with me. I am helping my parents and I am not harming anyone. So why shouldn't I live my own life according to my own wish? So this was her philosophy. Now see, it is important to understand that we live in a society in which all children face some problem. Here we will talk about this rigid expectation. We are living in a society where children face some or the other problem. What kind of problem? Sometimes these come in the form of demands from adults. Like our parents sometimes demand something which we are not, maybe we are not capable of. But Our parents have so much of expectations from us, from the children. So because of their expectation, a child has to do a lot of things. Okay. Boys are pressured to think about getting a job that will pay a good salary. So from the childhood only, parents start talking about the boys that you have to do engineering or you have to pass this exam. Why so? Because you have to get a good job. And why you have to get a good job? So that you can run the family. See, a child who is just studying in school, from that time only, the adults in the family are pressurizing the child about his future, that you have to earn good money, you have to be in a good job because you have to run the house, right? So at that age where the child is supposed to be free of all these responsibility kind of thing and just need to focus on the studies or the subjects which the child like, at that time parents or the other adults in the family, they are telling him that you have to think of a good job because you have to run the family, right? They also teased and bullied. They do not behave like other boys. You may remember that in your class 6 book you have read about how boys at the early age are encouraged not to cry in front of everyone. Right now I told you, boys in the very early age, they are encouraged that you must not cry. Even what will a boy do? Boy also has feelings, emotions, right? So, but from the childhood they are told not to express your feelings by crying. You can't cry, you are not a girl. So this is what the society is doing. Now our other topic is learning for change. Going to school is an extremely important part of your life. You all are coming to school. Why you all are coming to school? To study well. So it is an important part of your life. You all want to study, okay, and because then you think that you will choose a career of your own, right? Now as more children enter in every year, we begin to think that it is normal for all the children to go to school. Like in today's era, we think that it is normal. Yes, each child grow up around the age of 2.5 or 3, he will get admission in the school. So it is very normal for us to think of that yes, every child has to take admission in the school and they will study. Today, if it is difficult for us to imagine the school and learning could be seen as out of bounds or not appropriate for some children. We don't think, or it is very difficult for us to think that if somebody says that no, we don't send our child to school, or if you came in contact with some child who is saying no, I don't go to school. So you will be surprised if you listen these kind of words from any child. Whether a child is belonging to a rich family or a poor family, nowadays each and every person is sending the child to school. Even if a person belonging to a poor family, they are getting admission in government schools, or there are Anganwadis for poor children, right? But we can't imagine some child saying that no, we don't go to school. So for us now, these days, it is very common, it is very ordinary for everyone that yes, everyone comes to school, all the children goes to school. But in the past, the skills of reading and writing was known to only a few. In the past, it was not the same as it is now. Most children learn the work their families or elders do. In the past, education was not given so much of importance. So what work they used to do, the children, the further generations, the work which already their family members are doing, till the generation, the work was passed on to the other generation, and the children used to carry on that work only which is done by their family. Suppose a family is doing farming work, so all the generations, upcoming generation of the family will do farming only. Suppose a family is doing weaving work, so it will pass on to the other generation and they will also do the weaving. So earlier education was not given so much of importance as it is given now these days. Right, now each and every parent want their child to go to school and study. It may be a small school, it may be a big school, right? But the parents want their children to get the education. But earlier it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that in the past. And for the girls, the situation was even worst. Like the time passed on, the family started thinking that okay, we can send boys to the school, but girls were still not given the education. Girls were still told to sit at home or help their mothers in the household work, or again farming work or weaving, whatever work they were already doing. So girls faced most of the problem from the past only. The girls, it was the worst. In communities that taught sons to read and write, daughters were not allowed to learn the alphabets. And even in families where skills like pottery, weaving and craft were taught, the contribution of daughters and women was only seen as supportive. Even the families who were doing the farming work or weaving work, the contribution of the women in the house or the daughters, they were only the supporting members in the family. They were not even doing the main work. They were not doing the main weaving work or main farming work. They were only considered as a supporting member. Means they are not given importance even in that work, and not even they are given the education. They are not sent to school for getting the education. So you see the difference, that the situation of the women, the situation of the girls were even worse at that time. In the pottery trade, women collected the mud and prepared the earth for the pots, but since they did not operate the wheel, they were not seen as potters. So the work of women was only to prepare the sand for making the pots, but the main work was done by the manually. Women were not allowed to use the wheel. In the 19th century, many new ideas about education and learning emerged. Schools became more common, and communities that had never learned reading and writing started sending their children to school. So from the 19th century, people started sending their children to school, but there was a lot of opposition of girls' education even then. Yet many women and men made efforts to open school for girls. Women struggled to learn to read and write. So women were not getting opportunity even at that time. People were against educating their girl child, educating the women, educating the daughters. But still there were few people, few men, few women who worked hard, struggled hard for the education of the girls. So we will take some examples of these women who changed the world. The topic of our chapter, women change the world. So how these women change the world? See, we are talking about learning for change. How did this change come? Okay, so there are stories of Ramabai, Rajsundari Devi and Ruqayya Shekhawat Hussain. These women were the one who wanted to study. They studied and they took initiative to so that education can become possible for other girls and other women as well. So first we will take example of Ramabai. Ramabai, shown above, her daughter championed the cause of women's education. She never went to school but learned to read and write from her parents. So parents knew how to read and write. So Ramabai learned to read and write from her parents. So here the parents supported Ramabai to read and write. She was given the title Pandita because she could read and write Sanskrit, a remarkable achievement as women then were not allowed such knowledge. She went on to set up a mission in Khetgaon near Pune in 1898, where widows and poor women were encouraged not only to become literate but to be independent. They were taught a variety of skills from carpentry to running a printing press, skills that are not usually taught to girls even today. The printing press can be seen in the picture. There is a picture given in your book. There you can see the printing press. Ramabai's mission is still active today. So Ramabai was the woman who knew how to read and write, and she wanted the other women also to grow. She wanted that education, that women have this right to get the education. So she was on a mission, and she wanted the widows who were not getting the education. So she helped those widows and the other girls so that they can get education and even learn different skills also, which even today, which are not means women are still not trained for those skills, which at that time Ramabai encouraged the women to do. Learning to read and write led some women to question the situation of women in society. Now when the women learned how to read and write, then they started asking the question to the society that why women are not given the education. They wrote stories, letters and autobiographies describing their own experiences of inequality. In their writings, they also imagined new ways of thinking and living for both men and women. So now when these women learned how to read and write, now they started asking questions from the society that why women are not getting the education, why they are not getting their right, and they started writing about their own experiences and the differentiation which they could see, they could feel in men and women. So they started writing about all those things. So in those stories, there was one story of Raj Sundari Devi. In their writings, she was born in West Bengal some 200 years ago. At the age of 60, she wrote her autobiography in Bangla. Her book titled Amar Jaban is the first known autobiography written by an Indian woman. Raj Sundari Devi was a housewife from a rich landlord's family. At that time, it was believed that if a woman learned to read and write, she would bring bad luck to her husband and become a widow. So this was the mentality, the thinking of the people, that if a woman will be educated, if she will learn how to read and write, it will be a bad luck for her husband and she will become a widow. Despite this, she taught herself how to read and write in secret well after her marriage. She knew all these things, that what is the mentality of the society, but despite all this also she learned to read and write. I would start working at dawn and I would still be at it until well beyond midnight. I had no rest in between. I was only 14 years old at the time. I came to nurture a great longing. I would learn to read and I would read a religious manuscript. Now how she learned to read and write? She would read religious manuscript. I was unlucky in those days, women were not educated. Later, I began to resent my own thoughts. What is wrong with me? Women do not read. How will I do it? Then I had a dream. I was reading the manuscript of Chaitanya Bhagavat. Later in the day, as I sat cooking in the kitchen, I heard my husband say to my eldest son, Bipin, I have left my Chaitanya Bhagavat here. When I asked for it, bring in it. He left the book there and went away. When the book had been taken inside, I secretly took out a page and hid it carefully. It was a job hiding it, for nobody must find it in my hands. My eldest son was practicing his alphabets at that time. I had one of them as well. So what Raj Sundari Devi did, she wanted to learn how to read and write. So there is a book in Bengali, Chaitanya Bhagavat. So that one day she start thinking that why I am doing so, why I want to read, if it is a bad luck for the family, I shouldn't do this. Then that day she saw in her dream that she is reading Chaitanya Bhagavat. The other day when she woke up, her husband was telling her son to bring Chaitanya Bhagavat. So eldest son leave that book, and what Raj Sundari Devi did, she took out some pages from that book. Then what she did, she took out some pages from her son's book also. Her son was learning alphabets. So Raj Sundari Devi took out few pages from Chaitanya Bhagavat and few pages from her eldest son book. And then she started matching the letters. This way she learned to read, matching the alphabets from what is written in that Chaitanya Bhagavat. And it was so difficult task for her to take out the pages from Chaitanya Bhagavat and hide those pages, because if anyone would have seen those pages on her hand, she would be in trouble. So it was a difficult task for her to do this job, but still, because she wanted to learn, she was so desperate to learn the letters, to read and write, so she did this kind of thing. Another story is of Rokeya Shekhawat Hussain. Rokeya Shekhawat Hussain was born into a rich family who owned a lot of land. Though she knew how to read and write Urdu, she was stopped from learning Bangla and English. So she knew how to read and write Urdu, but she was restricted to learn Bangla and English. Why? Because again the society thinks that if a woman will learn Bangla and English, again they will starting asking question from the society about women's education. Right. So that is why they were not allowed to learn these languages. So, but with the support of her elder brother, she learned these languages as well, and she wrote a book. One day she wanted to try the skills. She already learned English and she wanted to try her skills of English. So she started writing a book. The title of her book was Sultana's Dream, and in that book she thought about a lady land. What that lady land was a land where all the women are learning, getting education, they are working, even doing that work which the society thinks that women can't do. In that lady land, the ladies, the women were doing that kind of work, and men were not doing all these work. Only the women were there who were working. So all this story she wrote in her book just to test her English skills. Now coming to our next topic, that is schooling and education today. Like as we talked about the situation which was there in the past and the situation which is today. Like in the past, parents were not means they didn't thought of sending their children to school, but today the situations are completely changed. Now the parents are aware that yes, that their child need to study, so all the parents want their child to go to school and get education. Today both boys and girls attend school in large numbers, yet as we will see, there still remains differences between the education of boys and education of girls. The number of boys who are getting education is still more than the number of girls who are getting education. And in some communities, still people have this mentality that we should not send our girl child to school. And there are some reasons also behind all this situation. In some places, in some rural areas, schools are so far away that people think, okay, our boy can go to that much distance, but we can't send our girl child to go and study in a far distance. So they stop sending their girls to school, right? So still we can see that children are getting education, but the number of boys are still more than the number of girls. India, there is schooling, what work they do and so on. We use this information to measure many things like the number of literate people and the ratio of men and women. According to the 1961 census, about 40% of all boys and men were literate. So even today, if the literacy rate is seen, the census, if it is seen of girls and boy, if the literacy rate is seen, so boys are still more literated than the girls as compared to the girls. Now, talking about our last topic, that is women's movement. Now, what all topics will come in this topic is the struggle. Struggle for what? Struggle for legal reforms, violence and health. There are many situations in which women are facing problem. Maybe they are facing problem at their home, maybe they are not getting the education, maybe they are not getting the proper health facilities, proper treatment, right? So the women's movement is all about the struggle which the women did to get their right, to get the opportunities which they of which they have right. They wanted to get that opportunity, for which they started this women's movement. Women and girls now have the right to study and go to school. There are other spheres like legal reform, violence and health, where the situation of women and girls has improved. These changes have not happened automatically. Women individually and collectively have struggled to bring about these changes. So now we can see that women are getting the right, but automatically it didn't happen. Women have struggled for all these things, and that is why they are getting all these rights. Maybe women alone, an individual women, or maybe in a complete group organization, collectively the women have fought against their right, and that is why they are getting all these opportunities. It is not only the women who are involved in this women movement. There are few men also who are supporting the women. Now, who all are involved in this women movement? The women, it can be individual women, or there might be some women organization who are involved in this women's movement. So, whatever struggle is done to get the right for the women is known as the women's movement, and there are men also who are supporting this movement. Different strategies have been used to spread awareness, fight discrimination and seek justice. Different strategies means there are different ways in which women are doing something for themselves. So we'll take one example of this strategy, that is campaigning. What is campaigning? Campaigns to fight discrimination. women are making campaigns to fight the discrimination against them, and violence against women are an important part of the women's movement, and campaigns have also led to new laws being passed. Because of these campaigns, some new laws also passed for the women. A law was made in 2006 to give women who face physical and mental violence within their homes, also called domestic violence, some legal protection. So by this law, because of the women's movement, because they struggled for their right, so the law was introduced in 2006, which said that the women get the protection by the government, that if some violence is being done to the women at their home or somebody is abusing them, so they are protected by the government, and according to that law a person can get the punishment as well. Similarly, efforts made by the women's movement led the Supreme Court to formulate guidelines in 1997 to protect women against sexual harassment at the workplace and within educational institution. And in the 1980s, for example, women's group across the country spoke out against dowry deaths. There are so many examples of dowry deaths, so women spoke against that also, so that they can get protection against this also by the government, because people were taking dowry, and if somebody's family was not able to give that much dowry, so what the family members used to do, they used to trouble the women, due to which the women death, they were committing suicide, or maybe their in-laws only murder the women, showing that she has committed suicide. So because of this also the women raise up the voice that so many dowry deaths are being there. So cases of young brides being murdered by their in-laws or husbands. Greedy for more dowry, women's groups spoke out against the failure to bring these cases to justice. They did so by coming on the streets, approaching the courts, and by sharing information. So the women they shared the information about all these dowry deaths, and they went to the Supreme Court. They raised their voice for this situation so that women can get protection over here also. Eventually this became a public issue in the newspaper and society, and the dowry laws were changed to punish families who seek dowry. So when these all information came up by the women, so then the government took action, and then the people who were creating problem in the society and the people who were forcing the women to get the dowry or whatever dowry deaths were going on, these cases, now they were punished. The families who were doing such things were getting the punishment. Now what do we mean by raising awareness? What is raising awareness? See, raising awareness, it is very important to raise awareness among all the people related to all these things. If we talk about dowry death, if we talk about women's education, it is important for each and everyone to know about all these things, to know about their own rights. So raising awareness means making the people know what their rights are. An important part of the women's movement's work is to raise public awareness on women's rights and their issues. Their message has been spread through street plays, songs, and public meetings. So how they raise this awareness, how they spread their message? By some songs, or by campaigning, or by moving on the streets, right? So by this they spread their message, by protesting, by showing solidarity. These were some methods by which the women were able to create awareness among other people about what? About the rights of the women, so that each and every woman can get their right, each and every woman can get their education, can get all the rights, and about this dowry system. So as much as people will be aware about all these things will be less, and women will be able to get their rights. This is all about our chapter. Thank you everyone.